want to mention is that when we put in the garden, we did get a grant from the county to cover a lot of the costs, but we also found that our community was very generous, and we had contributions from, I believe, like 20 different, all the hardware stores. The plants were all donated and stuff, and a lot of our tools and things were donated. So the community, we figured about $4,500 worth of stuff was donated.
Did you have a kind of special ceremony? Was it when the banana tree was planted?
Yeah.
Had an opening ceremony?
Opening ceremony. It was on a Saturday morning, so it wasn't that big, but we had a lot of the teachers out here in Mr. Sheena's. In April, we're planning one of our events to get all of the South Maui Sustainability people, plus encourage parents from the school and stuff to come out here and see it. Have kids stationed around the garden talking about what they've planted.
So most of the parents really don't have time to garden.
That's true, but we keep trying to encourage that we have more parent participation.
I've heard that there's not even a PTA organization here for this school, so that might actually be an area that we can address as far as any parent-teacher student garden association or something like that we could get some involvement with the parents through that. So this is our tool shed. This was donated by Sears, actually. It was a $600 donation that they made to us, along with a bunch of tools. Ace and Home Depot have also been very generous with their support. We keep everything in here. We just notice our coffee spray for slugs. We have our fire garlic spray that Kathy so generously provides us down here. A jar for the kids to collect bugs, which we tell them we release elsewhere. That's about all they need to know. There's a garden journal for the teachers to record when they've been out here and what they've contributed to the garden or how they've participated. Bucket with all the shovels and stuff for the kids to use. Watering cans for the little ones to use instead of the watering hose, because that just gets really crazy. And then these are the rules we try to have them recite each time that they start out here in the garden. And we have them put their hands together like this and say, "I will be respectful, and I will be safe." It's a really wonderful experience. Let's see. That's it. That's our
emergency numbers.
Our emergency numbers. Yeah.
In case they see
all the really good important
going wrong
stuff
in the garden.
So this is what makes all that work.
How many people are involved in this garden?
Volunteers.
Yeah.
At this point, I said
There's probably like about 7 of us regularly. But when we were putting it in and stuff, we worked 2 Saturdays, and each Saturday we had over 35 people out here, and it was different people each Saturday. So we really had a lot of good community input, including teachers, their spouses, and stuff. It was fun days putting it in.
it's not taking a whole lot for upkeep right now, so we just have a few people to kind of rotate in and out and manage the care of the garden. We have some folks that are showing up to work with teachers, and we've told the teachers that if they would like some help with curriculum ideas, or they'd like some help out in the garden, or they would just like somebody to be here, because that's one of the biggest issues. It's kind of hard to bring your class out into a garden and be constructive about your time out here if you're hesitant or never felt that you had a green thumb to begin with.
Right.
So
I'm a Maui Master Gardener, and so we're going to try to get the Master Gardener program involved in that, being out here, once a week or something to help the teachers.
So if you had to say what were your 2 or 3 biggest challenges, what would they be?
I think our biggest challenge is really just getting, teachers to have the time and find the time to get kids out in the garden. We would love to get parents participating more, those are really our biggest challenges at this point. Thinking about, well, when summer comes, what's going to happen with the garden, you know?
That's a recess?
Yeah. So, you know, we would love to see it continue, have parents out here helping the kids learn through the summer, use it more like a community garden. And
Because it will really keep thriving, just there are no seasons here as
Absolutely.
such. I mean, there are, but not
Right.
the way we have
Right.
where I come from.
And there will be times where, and part of the original plan is that we will be rotating crops to different beds each season or each year. So that is part of the plan, and we need to take things up out of the ground, but we really want to have the kids involved in that entire process. We lost a few plants over the last couple of weeks, and we pulled some of them out of the ground because they were dead and they needed to be removed. And the kids that showed up this morning were looking for their plants, so we went through the process of explaining why that happens, how it happens, and just letting them adopt another plant, and everybody's happy and fine. So they do really well with it. But kids absolutely love bugs. I got to tell you that if you didn't know that already. Have a crawly bug somewhere, and you have their attention, and they're right there in the palm of your hand. It's been really, really wonderful to be out here.
Do you have the impression that when children grow foods, even foods they're not familiar with, they'll be more likely to taste it and eat it?
Absolutely.
Why do you think that would be?
Well, when we were doing the planting, and we talked about, okay, what are you putting in the ground, and how is this going to end up? How are you going to be able to eat? And we talked about green beans and lettuces. Salad was the obvious choice for how they like to eat that. But tomatoes came up, and my question to them was, well, how do you eat tomatoes? And some people said, with salt. And I was like, that's a great way to eat tomato, with salt on it. And somebody else said in their salad, and somebody said on a hamburger. And I said, well, who doesn't like tomatoes? And half the class raised their hand. I'm like, you don't like tomatoes, so you don't like pizza, right? You don't like pizza sauce. And they go, oh, we like pizza sauce. Well, that's tomatoes. That's what you're growing out here. What about salsa? Oh, salsa, yeah. So once they start connecting all these things, it's they can get a much clearer idea of how this is all so important. And that's been really, I think, the most fascinating thing for me to see is the light that goes on in their heads about, wow, okay, this is not what I thought it was. You know, this isn't just some little red thing that's on a plant that's going to be growing here. It's something that I actually eat every day, and it's going to be great that I know how to grow it.
making that connection that our food comes from the ground, not from the grocery store. I mean, it's really amazing how many kids think the only place they can get things is the grocery store. And we had one kid that we were planting the sunflowers, and he's like, yeah, we buy these seeds at the grocery store. Well, we're going to plant them in the ground and grow more seeds. He's like, no, that won't work.
Right.
We got to buy them at the grocery store.
store.
So it'll be so exciting to see when things come out.
If we could have had a recorder going for the entire time we planted this, 540 kids are planted out here, we could like make a whole, write a book about it. One of my favorite things that happened was one of our primary volunteers, and a person who has, I would say, gave birth to the whole idea of doing this garden was Emily Goss. And she was asking the kids, okay, she said, we are going to plant this green bean seed, and it's really tiny. She goes, how long do you think it's going to take for this to grow into something that we can eat? And I think that the first kid's hand shot up, and he said,
2 seconds.
2 seconds. 2 seconds we're going to be able to eat this green bean. So she said, oh, it might take a little bit longer than that. So hand in the back goes up, and it was forever was the next answer. So she said, well, hopefully somewhere in between there we're going to be able to harvest this green bean.
But you know, kindergartners are developing that sense of time, and hopefully the garden will help them further develop that and understand it takes time for things to grow.